Hi, teacher and classmates. We are going to talk about the topic number 3, that is about the national Ecuadorian curriculum in the area of English. Well, here we have the National English Curriculum that is designed for students in Educación General Básica in the second to 10 and in the Bachillerato General Unificado to, from first to third grade, whose mother tongue is not English. The skills developed in the curriculum are related to global engagement, social thinking skills, and lifelong learning. It is based on the CLIL or CLIL approach, where contents from other disciplines are used for meaningful use and language learning, where it's necessary to take into account the four C's that are the content, culture, communication, and cognition. It's implement or used to depend and express the knowledge of the students about themselves and others. Also, it's designed taking into account the five curricular threats. The first is communication and cultural awareness. The second is oral communication. The third is reading. The fourth is writing, and the fifth is language through the arts. Then here we have the microcurricular planning that is based on the a set of procedures which have purpose of achieve goals and objectives. It is known as a technical tool for decision making with the purpose of facilitate the organization of elements that guides the educational process. And also it's about define the develop of a plan that involves the objectives of the class, the activities, methodologies, strategies, resources, and evaluation based on the specific content given in the subject. Uh, well, now here we have the microcurricular components that they are in terms of communicative competence. So we have three. The first is linguistic component. So in this case, it have basic repertoire of words, phrases related to the social background of the student, which is complementary to the personal and educational background with which they are already familiar. The second one is the sociolinguistic component that it's based on use basic expressions to import and elicit factual information as well as socialize. For example, could be topics as greetings, addressing forms, introduction of oneself and others, or saying goodbye and other things. And as the third point, here we have the grammatic component that it's about link words or groups of words with basic linear connectors like the use of but or while and others. Now here we have the microcurricular planning and language skills. There are four. The first is listening, that identify the relation between the sounds and spelling of English words within the lexical range of the students. Recognize and distinguish the words, expressions, and sentences in simple spoken text related to the learner's personal educational background, and distinguish the phonemically distinct words related to learners in personal education background. For example, names, address, or nouns or other objects. Then here we have reading, that it's about recognize the cognitive words and loan words from their first language, follow single steps writing instructions, understand and adapt authentic texts which are simple and short, and also understand and identify simple information text. For example, labels, messages, or postcards, or timetables, and others. Then here we have the speaking. In the speaking, here we have two stages. The first is the production, where students are going to pronounce words, expression, and statements in their personal and educational repertoire. And to avoid some misunderstandings, and also place the stress on the correct syllable of mono and polysyllabic words and sentences in their repertoire. They are going to use simple phrases and sentences to describe themselves. For example, to answer questions about what they do, where they live, what they have, and others. And then in the second stage, that is interaction, it's about deliver a very short monologue that could be, for example, introduce a speaker and use the basic greetings, for example, different expressions to say goodbye or good morning, and participate in short conversations on very familiar topics within the personal educational domains. And finally, here we have writing that is related to spell personal and educational details, for example, names, numbers, dates, and others. Take down in writing and dictate or record messages within the limits of the repertoire for the level. And also writing select phrases and sentences for simple information, text, as I mentioned before, some examples, labels, messages, forms, or cards. And finally, carry out correspondence, for example, emails with a partner by giving eliciting personal and educational information.
Some standard components in a unit plan. A. Unit title or subject area, the theme of your unit and subject you are teaching. B. Communicative competence components. Briefly list the ones covered in this unit plan. C. Classroom level. The classroom in which the subject is taught and the level according to the curriculum guidelines. D. Unit rationale. Your rationale is your overall justification for the unit. And basically, what you will have to do is to provide a paragraph explanation to describe the value of the unit that is presented. E. Goals. In this, they are also called long-term objectives and describe the purpose or major concepts that will be taught. If objectives, they are more specific than the goals. Objectives must be measurable, short-term or immediate objectives. G. Content. Identify and organize the topics that are included in the unit. H. Learning activities. The main methods or activities for teaching each goal, while not as detailed as the instructional procedures in a lesson plan. I. List of resources. All resources consulted in a preparation of the unit should be listed. Remember. J. List of materials. List of materials needed to teach the unit that are not readily available to the teachers every day. K. Assessment. Identify the ways student learning will be measured, as well as how students will receive feedback and list the strategy and instrument you will use. L. Explanation of how the unit plan addresses a particular student profile. Well, demonstrate how your plan addresses the. Okay, here we have one example. The unit plan. First, we have the general information, the unit title, classroom level, subject area, communicative competence components, unit rationale, overview, goals, objectives, content, learning activities, days. List of the resources, list of materials, assessment, and explanations of how the unit addresses a particular student profile. What are some standard components in a lesson plan? Harman 2010 suggests the following elements should be included in lesson plans. Well, and here we have first A. Description of the student. This may include from a general picture of the student's level, age, range, atmosphere, and so on. B. Aims and objectives. It refers to what we help our students to achieve. Most lessons usually include a series of primary and secondary aims because it makes it easier for the teacher and the students as well. C. Procedures. It refers to the description of how the plan will be executed. In other words, the actual procedures, for example, the methodology proposed. This section can include information about partners of the interaction, for example, teacher-student, student-teacher, student-student. D. Anticipating problems. Teachers may list some potential problems or difficulties that the teacher can find in the classroom. E. Extra activities material just in case. Teachers may make a note of extra activities they could include if things go quicker than anticipated. F. Materials to be used in the lesson. Teachers may attach examples of the material they are to use with the students to their plan. G. Success indicators, where the teachers indicates how she or he will be able to measure the success of what happens. It may also be called evaluation. H. Homework further work. It shows what teachers have thought about beyond the actual lesson. Okay, here we have another example. In this chart we have first the group, date, time, number of students, recent topic work, recent language work, aims, objectives, assessment, materials, anticipated problems, timing, teacher activity, student activity, and success indicators. And also we have additional possibilities. Okay, as the final product we have the microcurricular planning by skills and performance criteria in the English language. Well, we have here in this chapter we have the teachers, the R in this case the English and foreign language, the grade of the course, the class, the book, the unit, the objectives, the unit plan. We have as well the skills of performance criteria, evaluation criteria, the communication and cultural awareness, and oral communication, listening, and speaking. Okay, we have the writing, language through the arts, the methodological strategies, the resources, performance indicators, evaluation activities, techniques, instruments. As we know that we have the communication and cultural awareness, oral communication, listening, and speaking, the communication and cultural awareness as well, oral communication, reading, and different activities that the students are going to do. Okay, in here we have reading, writing, language through the arts, another box, the writing and language through the arts, the different techniques, instruments for oral and writing evaluation.
The EFL curriculum embraces the development of creative and critical thinking skills, as well as attitudes such as ethical conduct through the values of academic honesty and integrity, supporting general education goals of justice, innovation, and solidarity, by developing thinking, social, and creative skills in the context of language learning. The skills are integrated within the 5 curriculum threats and encourage learners to act responsibly and to respect themselves as well as others while participating in the communication process. In doing so, the curriculum endorses the values of solidarity and justice. The core principles in the curriculum can be summarized as: Number 1. The communicative language approach. Language is best learned as a means to interact and communicative rather than as a body of knowledge to be memorized. Number 2. Content and language integrated learning. A model used to integrate the learning of language with cultural and cognitive aspects of learning such that language acquisition serves as a driver from learners' development. Number 3. International standards. The curriculum is based on internationally recognized levels and processes of teaching and learning language. Number 4. Thinking skills. Learning English should support the development of the thinking, social, and creative skills needed for lifelong learning and citizenship. And finally, number 5. Learner-centered approach. Teaching methodologies should reflect and respond to learners' strengths and challenges, and facilitate the process of learning by supporting learners' motivation for and engagement with learning.
Epistemological foundation and pedagogical response. The epistemological foundation of the EFL curriculum refers to how learners learn language and therefore how they should be taught. In this curriculum, we take a constructivist approach and beginning with the assignment that all learners entering schools are users of their mother tongues, have cognitive, emotional, and monetary skills that facilitate communication, and have an understanding of how their L1 was derived from intensive input and production in real-life context. The knowledge and meaning are assessed, developed, are expressed through language. The English as foreign language and context language and integral learning. We think CLEL from word expressed that the language facilitates a communication, a cultural answer and understand, cognition and context. Another way to conceptualize this is to see the acquisition of language as an outcome of and through learning. The language of learning is understood as the acknowledgement that learners need to have access to a linguistic concept system and skill in order to communicate, develop a knowledge about subject, themes, and topics. The communication, cognitive context, culture, the cultural awareness and intercultural understanding. There are the language of learning, the language for learning, and the language thought. The language of learning, the word of communication, language system, and skill. The language for learning is the whole of communication, the learning strategy, communication skill. And the language thought learning is the way of communication, of knowledge, and multiple perspectives. The other is the communicative language teaching. In the communicative language teaching, constitutes theories of knowledge and the central oral language and communicative competence in CLEL feedbacks can be best expressed through a communicative approach to teaching. In this methodology, there are two aspects: there are source and the critical thinking skills. The curricular threats. There are 5 categories about the curricular threats. The curricular threat 1 is the communication and cultural awareness. The communication and cultural awareness threat is comprised of 2 aspects: the intercultural awareness and identify as social components and values. Is divided in intercultural awareness and identify that the social competence and values and the
threat 4, writing. Here we have the initial literacy and also text production. Initial literacy is events in our everyday, like reading an email, a birthday card, a stray signal, and so on. It's important to note that some learners might have rudimentary writing skills in their mother tongue, and this will very likely be transferred to English. Also, be a little problematic because it's less natural than the first language. In text production, is considered to comprise far more than simply writing a sentence or a paragraph. It also involves the ability to write a variety of text types to express ideas, belief, thinking, knowledge, and criteria to an audience. The process writing encourages learning to think about the use in a creative and critical manner. Trait 5. Language through art. Here we have creative writing and creative thinking skills. In creative grading, it's not about trying to produce a text type exactly. They could be legends, rules, myths, poetry, and little stories. Here, the learners enter an imaginary world created, develop their imagination and creativity. In creative thinking skills, we participating in creative activities such as music, art, dance, and poetry. Students will be stimulated and motivated to integrate the multiple models of communication and expression through the use of the language. The application of art education has the potential to promote all communicative, educational, intercultural, and also aesthetic outcomes. Of the Ecuadorian high school project. Here we have three important aspects: justice, innovation, and solidarity. In justice, we act with respect and responsibility toward ourselves and the others in nature of the world of ideas. Also, we accept and ignore strengths and weakness in order to become better. In innovation, we have creative initiative and process with passion, open mind, and vision of the future. Also, we can communicate in a clear manner in our own language and in the other. We are responsibility with what we say. We use logical, complex, and critical thinking skills and practice intellectual humility throughout our learning process in the life. And finally, in solidarity, we take social responsibility and have the ability to interact with heterogeneous groups from the understanding, tolerance, and empathy standpoint. Also, we use our emotional intelligence to be passion-friendly, flexible, and also self-critical. We adapt to the demands of working as part of the team, understanding the context and respecting the ideas of the contributions of the other person. Finally, we have general objectives of the English as a foreign language area by the end of the Bachillerato General Unificado. The Ecuadorian high school student exit profile. The Bachillerato General Unificado aims to shape young people who are well prepared for the life in the 21st century and are ready to participate in a globalized democratic society through ongoing learning, work, and entrepreneurial activities. By the end of the high school, learners will be able to encounter socio-cultural aspects of their own and the other country in a thoughtful and inquisitive manner. Draw of the established propensity for curiosity and tolerance toward different cultures to comprehension the role of the diversity in the building an intercultural and multinational society. Access greater flexibility in mind, creativity, enhanced linguistic intelligence, and critical thinking skills throughout an appreciation of the linguistic differences. And finally, respects themselves and others with the communication process, cultivating habits of honesty and integrating into responsible academic behavior.
The difference between the Ecuadorian curriculum and the Colombian curriculum. The Ecuadorian curriculum and the Colombian curriculum, there are different language competence. The Ecuadorian curriculum, the CLEL, is the aspect that contain the curriculum. There are the communication and cultural answer, the oral communication, speaking, listening, the reading, the writing, and the language of the arts. And on the other hand, the Colombian curriculum, the language competence is the organizative competence, is grammatical competence, textual competence, and the pragmatical competence is the sociocultural competence and psycholinguistic competence. The evaluation is most different because in the Ecuadorian curriculum, the evaluation is the creating, the evaluation, the analyzing, the applying, the understanding, and the remembering. And the Colombian curriculum, the evaluation is the knowledge to the student, knowledge to learning theory, knowledge of the learning process, and knowledge to autonomous learning. And you can see that there are two differences about the curriculum, Ecuadorian curriculum and Colombian curriculum. The other difference about the Ecuadorian curriculum and the Colombian curriculum is that in the Ecuadorian curriculum, there are curriculum fits. In the Colombian curriculum, there are curriculum models. The curriculum fits is the Ecuadorian curriculum, and the things are communication and cultural awareness. The oral communication, that is the listening and speaking, the reading, the writing in the language of the arts. And the Colombian curriculum is the models. The models are social process, the language development, the academic development, and the cognitive development. And the other difference is in the Colombian curriculum there are examples about the grammar and the vocabulary. However, in the Ecuadorian curriculum is a curriculum more specific about the learning, about the process learning in the students.
Thank you, teacher. That's all.